I ain't trying to bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. One thing I taught myself to do, no matter the problem, refuse to lose. So, how you want it, man? You can choose. If you can't take the heat, don't light the fuse. See, I walk in slow and ignite the room. Like fire, everything I touch, I consume. I'm getting up while y'all just snooze. While you make breakfast, man, I'm on the move. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. In me I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, huh? Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough, huh? I ain't never gay, no, I ain't scamming, you know black men don't blush, huh? Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Won't you come and see what it's like, living by the rules that you write. You ain't know those lavish delights, now you had no back in sight. All the little lies you recite, just makes all the savage unite. Usually I'm very polite, but I'ma get savage tonight. Even when a dog being nice, every single dog gonna bite. You might think I'm wrong, but I'm right. Just let it get a strong appetite. I'ma let it breathe just a little, give it to you strong, heavy metal. I don't make a sound when I strike. You better just run for your life. Run for your life.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WardRadio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I'm joined in the studio by none other than Brittany the Shadow, as well as via Zoom by a killer cast of, oh my goodness gracious, I think no more people fit on the screen. We've got Dave Butler, Luke Hansen, Brad Whitbeck, and Jonah Barnes, the associate professor of all things apocryphal. And today we're going to be having a chat. We're going to be talking about the golden plates of Saudi Arabia that have been taking the bloggernacle by storm over the past 24 hours. The ultimate Rorschach test, the 2,000-year-old Rorschach test, has been discovered, and everybody's getting what they want out of it. So here we are, playing referee, all right? Playing referee, telling you everything that we know about the, what are you calling these? The Saudi golden plates? Brad, you're the most diplomatic guy, and you were a marketer professionally for years. What are we calling these now? The Saudi...
What?
The Saudi Golden Bible? What are we calling it?
Well, I think we have two options. We have the Saudi forgeries or literal proof of the Book of Mormon. Okay. Those are our only two options. There can be no other option.
I think it's the David Butler plates.
Yes.
I think is what they tentative name.
Just like viruses need to get named out of the location where they were found. Like the Lyme disease was named after Lyme, Connecticut. Forgeries need to be named after those that believed in them. So Dave Butler, no, I'm totally just kidding. I'm being a savage here just because I absolutely hate people that are jumping out of the gates calling this a forgery for the exact same reason. They're a bunch of gatekeepers and narrative promoters and idea launderers. I have no respect for them either. But Dave's here and he's got a good attitude, it seems. So we're going to poke fun at him. And then Luke Hansen is actually writing an article for the new WardRadio News that everybody should go and subscribe to immediately after they press the like button and the share button on this video, because we're putting it all out there and everybody's going to have a chance to represent their side of the story, which is ultimately all you can ask for out of Ward Radio. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun. And as always, Brittany is going to be the keepress of the chats. She's here making sure that everybody that chats is going to have a say, shall we say. And if you guys have some kind of comment that you would like to give, or something you really, really want to say, make sure that you throw it in a super chat. And as long as it's germane to the conversation and it's appropriate to the conversation, we will do our best to say it on air. And Brittany's going to be our filter for that. So anyway, without any further ado, Luke, you've been writing an article on this. Why don't you tell us what's going on? Then Jonah, introduce Luke and Dave Butler. Everybody already knows Brad. Why don't you introduce who Dave Butler is? Or no, Brad, you invited him, so introduce Dave Butler, and tell us who Dave Butler is. And then Luke, you can start us off saying what's going on with these Saudi plates. So Brad, Whitbeck, go.
All right. So for starters, we've got Dave Butler here with us. He is the guy who sent me this video in the first place. That's his key introduction. The next thing that is important to know about Dave Butler is he has some of the coolest insights into the Book of Mormon and the way that Lehi's Tree of Life vision matches a bunch of First Temple Judaism stuff. It's very fascinating to look into. He's got some very, very good insights. He's written a couple of books on how all of this lines up in really interesting ways, how this fits and matches with old Hebrew stuff that there's no way Joseph Smith could have known about. And he's also a fiction author and has written some really fun fiction books too. So he is an awesome dude.
Oh, see, I thought he was the head of that sober biker gang that I see driving down Main Street. You know what I'm saying? But no, if he's a fiction author, that explains the chops and the deep masculine, smooth. You missed your calling in life, Dave Butler. You should have been a radio host. You got that smooth textured voice.
That baritone voice, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Dave Butler is the author. His two books are Plain and Precious Things and The Goodness and the Mysteries. And are there more, Dave?
There's a third one coming out on May 1st. I think we're going to come down and to your studio in a week or so here, Carden, and talk about it. We've got a book called In the Language of Adam coming out on May 1st, which is in the same vein. And we can talk more about that if you want. But the key question that your audience will be asking is, is this the Dave Butler whose books I have seen in Deseret Book? And the answer is no. That guy is a seminary teacher. That is not me.
Oh, okay, cool. Rock on. I didn't know there was beef. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's a little turf war. It's just my mission statement, Carden, is just to run him over.
Yeah.
Nice.
On your converted trike, which I found out if you have a tricycle motorcycle or a sidecar, it now is no longer a motorcycle, because it's got more than one axle and 3 wheels, so you don't need a motorcycle license to have it. So if you just put a sidecar on your motorcycle, a regular driver's license is all that's necessary. At least from the people I've talked to, that is not any driving advice in any other state outside of mine. So, and it's not even a driving advice, full disclosure.
Well, Carden, you have now resolved all the questions I came with. So thank you. I think that's it. I can go. I know what a sidecar is the answer.
Okay, cool. So really fast, keepers of the chats. Why don't you read our first super chats, and then we'll dive right in.
Okay, so Daniel Lewis says maybe Joseph Smith will translate these plates when he returns before the second coming of Jesus in 2034.
Either that, or else we're donating to the Philadelphia Antiquarian Society along with the Kinderhook plates. One of those two, right? So it's either awesome sauce or a nothing burger. Yeah, and Joseph Smith could handle anything we threw at him. So rock on. I'm digging that. Keep going.
Okay, Rock Family says Danny Gray had a fun/great idea in the chat. He asked, with so many of you on the screen, can you take 1 second and get all of you to do a Power Ranger morphing pose on stream?
Great idea.
Is that what a Power Ranger morphing pose looks like?
No, yeah, I'm going to need to be told what that is.
When they all go like
uncultured noobs.
What is it?
As long as I'm the Pink Ranger, that's all I care about.
Yeah. By the way,
I feel like I saw Power Rangers as a kid, but I can't remember their poses.
Oh, jeez. Who am I on with? I thought I knew you people.
Did you? What's crazy is the red and the pink Power Ranger were in my ward growing up in Los Angeles. And what's really funny is the director of The Lamb of God was the Power Ranger director. Do you remember that movie that you used on your mission, The Lamb of God?
Yes.
The guy that directed The Lamb of God directed Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Holy cow.
Yeah, dude. How epic is that? Showing up to church and there's the pink Power Ranger right there. Or no, I'm forgetting all of their colors. But yeah, they'd be, when I'd walk home from school, they'd be in the park next to my mom's school, like practicing their flips and jumping around. And yeah, it was pretty rad, dude. Like that was the 90s in my hometown. It was kind of nuts. So anyway, yeah, keep going. Any other super chats, babe?
Wendy sent a super chat. I'm trying to see. There wasn't any words associated with it. Unless she says this sounds too good to be true. Okay. I don't know what is too good to be true, though.
Well, that's actually going to lead us into the next part of what's going on. Dave and Luke, tell us what is going on here. So let me see.
That order or?
No, Luke, you go first because you're the reporter on this. You know what I'm saying?
Reporter. And the golden investigator.
Yeah, the golden investigator here. Tell us what's going on. By the way, guys, just so you know, we got a new offering here at Ward Radio. We're starting this month Ward Radio News. So it's going to be administered via our newsletter on wardradio.com. So make sure you sign up for our newsletter on the homepage of wardradio.com, where you will be getting articles written by myriad writers, one of them, the principal thereof, being Luke Hansen. Bon vivant, man of many words, erudite, scholar and journalist, Luke Hansen, who's written an article on this very thing. So Luke, tell us what's going on, then we'll throw to Dave. Hit us.
Yep, literally just, it needs a few more finishing touches and then the article will be up on Ward Radio News. There was actually a good question by Ethan before I get to that in the chats of how do people subscribe to this newsletter, Cardin?
First off, if you go on to, let me just show you right here really fast. If you guys go to wardradio.com, it's pretty simple. We just go on to wardradio.com in whatever browser you choose. All right. And you will notice that there's our website. It's got all of our videos. It's got short little bios of the hosts. And you see where it says join the club right there, join our email list in case we get canceled. Also receive occasional email newsletters and updates. Yeah, well, I will definitely have to update the wording on that little blurb. But that little blurb that you see right there where it says join the club, that is exactly where you sign up for our newsletter. So make sure that if you haven't had a chance yet, you sign up there and you will start being the first to get our articles sent to you via email. So Luke, you feel that satisfactorily answers the question, my man?
As long as the chat does. If they're happy, I'm happy.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. You are truly married to the chat. Happy wife, happy life, happy chat, happy reporter, happy journalist. Rock on. So anyway, Luke.
I'll take it. Yeah. So
okay, tell us what's going on.
This feels a little weird to explain it in front of Dave since he's the one that the report is partly on. But here we go. There's a YouTube channel that has a show called Shabbat Night Live. Obviously a spoof on Saturday Night Live. And they, 6 days ago, this would have been on Shabbat, so last Saturday, put out a video talking about gold plates. This guy who has done research and archaeology in the old world claims that him and his partner have found a set of gold plates, a little smaller than his hand, and that they contained, among other things, a lot of menorahs, a lot of depictions of trees between pillars. And the people on the show were excited, but even more excited were Hayden Paul and Dave Butler watching the video because they were seeing a ton of parallels between, especially the work that David has done, referencing Margaret Barker, who's not a member of the church, and her work on the Deuteronomic reforms and how there was kind of two factions going on in Israel at the time of King Josiah, and how Lehi is part of the visionary class. So Lehi is part of the people who believe that God is accessible by the individual, that the blessings of the temple, I guess you could say, are connected to the tree of life, to the mother, to the menorah, which is the representation of both the mother and the tree of life. And that King Josiah's reforms removed that essential aspect from the temple. They took the menorah outside of the Holy of Holies, cast it out of the temple. And so Lehi's vision of the tree of life is referencing these things and is basically advocating for the visionaries, the non-Deuteronomical reformers' view of the temple in his tree of life vision. And there's a lot of other parallels outside of Nephi 8 that also show up. So Dave and Hayden Paul, who is familiar with Dave's work, were very excited about this going through this video. However, since their video was posted, a number of people have shared some concerns, and actually one of them is friend of the show, Josh Gailey, and he shared a statement with WardRadio a lot to the effect of absolutely nothing about this has been verified. And he's speaking as a Book of Mormon enthusiast and as an archaeologist, or at least a graduate in archaeology. And so he's urging caution, he's urging pumping the brakes. Other people online, such as Bridger, what's his last name? Colbert, something like that, and Dan Ellsworth, who are also in kind of that academic LDS space, have urged caution.
Oh, come on, they're not
called it a fake.
Yeah, whatever. Forget those guys. These are the same people. These are the same experts that told us, 2 weeks to slow the spread, and that 6 feet of social distancing actually worked. You know what I'm saying? So experts, all right. Experts don't got a lot of sway with me post COVID right now. I want to know reality, not expertise. I want to know reality.
One thing I want to say really quickly before we get too far into the character assassination. I think one thing that I think people are missing, Dave, you and Hayden definitely mentioned at the beginning of your video, we don't know whether these are authentic or not, right?
That's correct.
And then move forward like, hey, if they are, here are some cool, interesting things that we can learn,
well, actually,
right?
Brad, if they are or if they are not. So, like...
well, Dave, before we go farther, for everybody that's tuned in, I apologize. We haven't quite totally summarized in one sentence what we're talking about. Just so everybody knows that's tuning in, recently on Shabbat Night Live, they spoke about the plates that you see on your screen, okay? A supposed artifact of allegedly 2,000 years of age has been found. It's been made of pounded gold that is could be described as being golden leaves and or plates, so on and so forth. So, of course, to members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, with the heritage of the artifact, the golden plates, this would be music to our ears in one way or another. However, there's also a lot of people, as Luke says, that says, okay, hold on a second, how do we know this isn't a fake? So anyway, Dave Butler spoke with Hayden Paul on a video that's blowing up, already got 60,000 views in 24 hours. So this is the talk about town. And so now Dave's going to be able to tell us what's going on. The plates you see on your screen are the subject of this conversation. Now, Brad and Dave, I interrupted you. Go.
Brad, is the floor mine?
Yes.
Yeah, take it away.
Yeah. Okay, so I should say first of all that Hayden might get mad at me because we were actually planning to have a conversation tomorrow, and so I was going to try to save my powder, keep my powder dry a little bit in this conversation. But given the way this has been queued up, I'm going to need to say some of the things that I was planning on saying tomorrow.
Oh, I like
it.
Yes.
So for starters,
sorry, Hayden.
Yes, I am sorry, Hayden.
I mean, I'm sorry, bro. No.
So look, for starters, we absolutely said we don't know whether these plates are authentic or not. We don't know whether the plates exist, right? There are photos of these plates. But now here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the story that these guys tell. So, and you guys have all seen this, right? So I'm just summarizing, not from written notes or anything. Hey, we find this buried stone cave, maybe a tomb out in the desert. It's got a bunch of writing on it. It's got writing on plates that are of base metal, lead, but also gold. What gets written on the gold plates as opposed to the base metal plates, the things that are more precious, that are more sacred? Who's writing this? Well, priestly Jews. Why are they out here? Well, they lost the political power struggle in Jerusalem and they had to flee. And it turns out that Arabia was full of priestly Jews, right? This is the story. By the way, we're excited because we might find they have scriptural books with them that we don't know. And the specific book they mention is the book of Zadok. Okay, Zadok, the Solomon's high priest, or possibly Solomon, if you accept that theory, right? Now we're watching this. And we say a couple times, I think we said more that were left on the cutting room floor. We said it more times. We don't know whether this is true or not, but the story is exciting. So I'm watching these two guys who are clearly some kind of evangelical. They may be scholars, but I don't think they are. I think they operate a Bible Lands tour group because they don't read Hebrew.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're talking to a guy who I think is a sort of a Messianic Jew. Is I think who the Michael Rood people are. Not sure about that. Think so. Hey, hold on, Luke. I listened to you. Okay. So they're going through, but well done. And they're going through, and they're like point by point talking about the Lehi story. Right now, do I want the story to be true? Yeah, for a few reasons. Okay. One, bitchin'. Okay. How awesome is that? Two, the sheer physicality, like the plates show up. Okay. But if we find those plates, like if those plates get shipped over here and Dan McClellan holds them in his hand, it will not give the man faith in God. Okay. Like it just won't. So I think it would be cool, but like that's not actually going to change anybody's mind. Okay. The third reason I think it would be cool if it's true is because I actually want to know. But I do think there's a lot of literary evidence and historical evidence that, in fact, Arabia was full of Jewish priestly groups. I would love to know why they left Jerusalem from their point of view. That's amazing, right? For the reasons Luke was talking about, it would help us get some clarity, some additional perspectives, as the Book of Mormon does, into the conflicts at the end of the First Temple period, right? All that is awesome. But I want you to consider this, okay? Consider this. Let's assume that the story is a fraud. Let's assume that the plates were manufactured by some guys in a basement in Amman or something, okay? If you were these guys, why would you go tell a story to potential buyers that said, priestly Jews fleeing in the deserts of Arabia with their unique books, writing on a combination of cheap and golden metal plates, right? Why would you tell that story to those buyers?
Yeah, the criterion of embarrassment almost kicks in, because you're like, why would a bunch of Saudis try and venerate Jews through ancient scripture, when their flag still has the Arab conquest sword on it. It seems a little counterintuitive, unless they're playing 3D chess and you didn't pick up on it, dog.
Let me go the other way, Carden.
Okay.
If you are a fraudster, you are telling that story because you think it's one they'll believe.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is a fraud, those guys told a story that sounds just like Lehi's family, and the evangelical Bible Lands tour guys believed a story that sounds just like Lehi's family. So even if it's a complete fraud,
this is it.
195 years in, we have reached the point where this story that Joseph Smith told, the problem is Moroni. No one has a problem with the story of what Lehi's family did. That's old hat now, right? So one, we could narrow down the issue. The problem is not the history. The problem is the angels, okay? But two, it means that if this is even if it's a fraud, whether it's a fraud or not, the fact that these books were sold on this basis, okay, and the story was accepted on this basis, is a bullseye for Joseph Smith in 1829.
Boom! Mormons win either way. We win either way.
This is why it's so exciting. And they're like unknowingly echoing the language of the small plates. They're like, why would they put some things on gold? Well, it's the more precious things. Right? Like, are you kidding me?
Well, they should have said plain and precious. Then it would have been a total alley-oop.
Then I would have actually probably wet my pants. So look, people are misconstruing us if they think we are saying we believe the plates are authentic. I think it would be cool if they were. That's not the point. The point is hearing these Gentiles, and sorry, Messianic Jews, I don't have a good word to call you, the Gentiles and this Jewish guy, talk about the Lehi story this way without realizing it.
All right, dude, that's actually an awesome take. Before we go any farther, Brittany, can you catch us up on some super chats? I see a lot of people have been wanting to opine from afar. Brittany.
Yes. Okay, so Diamond Dave says, too tired for a witty comment. Excommunicate whoever. Here's money.
Oh, okay, right, dude. He is so down for mass excommunications. Like when like he's the dude in the Purge movie. You know what I'm saying? Where you're like, yeah, where he at? You know what I'm saying? Where he at? You know, that's it. That's funny.
I heard a dirty rumor about Diamond Dave that he is gunning for the new bishop falling that's coming up in his ward. He is active. He is there before the meeting starts. He's the last guy to leave. He's just he's pushing the envelope with activity. Gunning for the red chair, Dave. We support it.
We support it, bro. No, so anyway, keep going.
Okay, Kim Young says, if WardRadio joined Glenn Beck and The Blaze, would it not save the church some tithing cash? It would have to, right?
Like, I don't know. I'd have to sit next to Allie Beth Stuckey. You know what I'm saying? And that might just
be but then we would actually get paid, and that would be nice.
Yeah, that's true, dude. That is way
Wait,
true.
you guys aren't getting paid?
Yeah, where'd that, dude? We got a big Hey, in the meme we made, you were the one receiving the check on behalf of WardRadio, Brad. What are you complaining about? Russell M. Nelson was paying you directly because you're our diplomat, dude. So anyway, maybe he'll pay us in one of the plates from these Saudi gold plates. We'll get like the table of contents, you know, and hopefully we don't get lead poisoning from it. So next one, Brittany, go.
Stephen Diamond says, it's been a while since we brought up the priesthood restoration site. Can we get a copy of these gold plates there? When are you guys coming again?
Oh, rock on, dude. Rock on. Yeah, we got a lot of field trips planned here. Trying to see if I can't squeeze out one to the solar eclipse. But anyway, keep going. Next one.
Okay, next one from the Rock family to Dave. He said, Dave, how plausible, in your opinion, is it that the archaeologist on SNL is LDS? He seemed to drop too many LDS hype words to be an accident, i.e. precious things, summary record, and the like.
No, I don't think. I think he was deliberately trying to. There was a point where he says, at one point where this is an early statement about kind of gold plates, he seems to be saying something that says, oh, but not like that crazy guy Joseph Smith, because he doesn't quite say that, but he says, but there's evidence. So I don't think so. Also, Hayden has called and had a conversation with Dr. Jones, which I think we'll probably talk about tomorrow morning.
Nice.
These guys are not Mormon. Nobody here is.
No.
I was going to say, were they sweating bullets, Dave? Were they just sitting there like completely aware? Because in order to get these fake divinity degrees that all these evangelicals depend on to make their money, to be pastors, you always have to take 3 classes, like Greek translations of anti-Mormon scriptures. Okay. Second is basic New Testament. And by that, we mean just the anti-Mormon and anti-Catholic verses. Okay. And then third, witnessing to Mormons, and sometimes in a very advanced master's degree, witnessing to Catholics is like a 2-week, add-on in the syllabi. But you always have to take those 3 classes. And so, were they sitting there as they realized the word golden plates came out of their mouth? Were they just sweating bullets about how they might get excommunicated from their fraternity because they just accidentally verified through the back door the premise of the golden plates?
I think this is one reason to take them seriously, is because inadvertently they're sort of saying things they'd kind of rather not say, right? And I will say I overheard. I was in part of the conversation with Dr. Jones. He seems like a very nice man. I think Hayden's going to try and get him on the show. He seems like a real believer in God and also a real straight shooter. There may be fraud here. I'd be really surprised if it's Dr. Jones or the tour guide guys, but they may be getting scammed. But yeah, I think there's on some level, Cardin, they had to have been a little uncomfortable that they were in fact talking about gold plates. I think if they knew how much what they were saying was similar to the small plates of Nephi, they would have been more uncomfortable, as I was more delighted.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So and actually funny you should bring that up. We have a clip from the same show talking about another set of gold plates. And in the Discord, Cardin, there's a little clip called Invisible Plates, and it shows a bearded guy kind of presenting. I don't know if it's too hard to bring that up.
No, we'll pull it up right now. We'll pull it up right now. It's on the screen. Everybody's going to be able to hear it in 3, 2, 1, go.
From the same show.
Okay.
God showed us these plates, but physically speaking, no one's ever actually seen them.
So this would be like Moses going to the top of Mount Sinai, receiving the commandments, saying they were written down, but, I don't have them.
I don't have them. Well, that's according to Joseph Smith, once he was done translating this ancient record, God, through his angel, required to have them back. You got to give these back. Okay. So Joseph Smith returned the plates to the angel, so there's no record. They're nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found. We can't see them, test them. We can't do any sort of checking whatsoever. The only thing we can do is look at the product that came out of this, the Book of Mormon, and test that product. God.
Oh, wow. So here they are on this.
Wow.
As, for example, by testing the likelihood of the opening scenario of the flight of a priestly Israelite from Jerusalem with his metal plate records and this can't be comfortable for them.
So this is interesting that they have this level of scrutiny for Joseph Smith's claim to have these plates, which no one has ever seen these plates.
Where's the first manuscripts of John, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and half of the Apocrypha that's missing? We don't have some of these codices. We don't have any of these manuscripts until 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th century, AD. Sorry, CE, because they've all gone woke. You know what I'm saying? We don't have any of this. All of a sudden they're dogging on us.
I'm sure that these guys believe that the Ark of the Covenant was just made up, There's no way that's real because they haven't seen it in their lives, right?
Yeah,
no, that's funny because they say, it's like Moses brought down these tablets and then said, I don't have them. I want to say, dudes, who here has ever seen Moses' tablets? None of y'all have. What are you talking about? You're all taking it on
and he kind
of
conveniently left out all of the witnesses, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but the big thing is the book, right? Isn't he right? The big thing is the book. Starting with the fact that Joseph produced a 500-page book, and if you take the hostile witnesses seriously by putting his face in a hat. So, that happens all the time, right? So I'll tell you, I've written a lot of novels. That's how I do it. I put my face in a book, and then I just dictate to somebody on the other side of a table. I never revise. I just turn in the manuscript.
Never revise.
Yeah.
Never
First
revise
draft.
anything.
First draft works great every time.
Okay.
So I don't want to make too much fun of these guys because I actually feel for them because I hope that they're real. I hope that they're real. By the way, none of us are ever going to know. Okay, none of us are going to know in our mortal lives. Why? Because there will be controversy. Because even when the Dead Sea Scrolls came out, some people immediately denounced them as forgeries. I was telling Hayden that before we recorded. I said, whatever is the case, there will be people who will say these are forgeries. By the way, there won't be a consensus probably for years. And by the way, these things probably won't end up in some museum. They'll probably end up in some rich guy's collection. So we're not going to see translations of these things for a long time, right? So it's going to be...
I literally said, as soon as I heard this, I was like, I already know what A, B, and C scholar is going to say because you're not cool. You're stupid if you believe. And anything associated with belief means you're dumb. And so you have to say, it's not real. And then when people say, why is it not real? You have to put your nose up. And they do this. They all do this. They say, well, no reasonable scholar actually believes this. It's like, yeah, because they're all mortified. They're all literally mortified.
Even if this weren't rendered controversial by the issue of belief, right? Of religious belief in God. The thing you have to realize about scholars is scholars aren't like a bunch of mandarins sitting in an ivory tower objectively trying to pursue truth together. They are not. They are a bunch of pimp rolling, knife wielding Mac daddies trying to stab each other in the back for the stupidest possible pieces of turf they can find. Who gets to be at the top of the Festschrift? Who gets to be the first speaker? Who gets tenure? Right? And so there will be a fight about anything, and people have incentive. People have incentive to defend their orthodoxy against truth and reason, and people have incentive to do all kinds of terrible things. So regardless, there was going to be someone who was going to say this is a fraud.
Brad, go.
Now, Dave, with that in mind, I wanted to ask you, I've seen a lot of people drawing comparisons from this to the Jordan-led codices. Are you familiar with those, and how does that apply to what we're talking about right now?
Only a little bit. I know that Margaret Barker is doing some work on them, and I know I've had recent so Margaret is a Methodist scholar who's very friendly to Mormons, right? She's just friendly.
How dare she?
I know, it's outrageous. As a scholar, she is a radical bomb thrower. Luke was talking, she's been my favorite. And by the way, a personal lifetime career was when I was reading her most recent book, The Great Lady, and I got to page 77, I think, and I found myself footnoted. Oh, yes.
Oh, well.
Because there is at least one pimp rolling Mac Daddy on the call. So,
wow.
Margaret is looking at some of those lead plates. And her third book will be the sort of about her interpretation. And I know that she has expressed to me that some publishers have told her that they think that they are forgeries, and she may have a hard time getting a publisher. She's pretty convinced they are not. She's a very, very smart person. Might she be wrong? She might be wrong, right? I don't know the detail very well. I know that Margaret is convinced. This kind of leads back into the space Luke was talking about. I know Margaret is convinced, without knowing the details, that there is a lot of information about what she would call the Great Lady of Jerusalem, which is to say the goddess, the mother goddess in the Jerusalem temple, whose priests, she says, fled into Arabia. This is what the texts say. And I think she understands that as being Jordan specifically, South Jordan, not the place in Salt Lake, and that these are sort of documents that record visions or other kind of sacred things of those people. I don't remember her early work that she published on those plates, and she stopped publishing it because some guy was taking it on the internet and trying to publish it as his own. So there are plates. They're on lead. Margaret's looking at them. Don't know who else is. Some people think they are forgeries.
Okay, so here we're going to go. Brittany's going to finish catching us up on Super Chats, and then Jonah's going to finish his thought, and then Luke is going to finish telling us the pros and the cons of these Saudi plates, and then David Butler is going to tell us which of his motorcycles are for sale and for how much. So, Brittany, your Super Chats.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Diamond Dave says, I forgot to bribe the keepress of the chat. Thank you, Diamond Dave. You are competing with Rex Good for my favorite contributor now.
Okay, rock on.
Next,
hey, we match these, babe.
We actually conflict because you're red and I'm orange.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's okay.
No.
Who wants to welcome Pixami to the WardRadio?
Oh, Jonah Barnes. He's the ward clerk. Ward clerk. Hit it.
We have received the records of brother or sister Pixami. All those who would like to welcome this new member of the WardRadio worship, please do so by putting a W in the chat. Any opposed? We don't care. Welcome. Welcome to the worship.
Next one, Brittany.
Daniel Lewis says, what will the world do if they are actually real and they mention Nephi or the three wise men, or better yet, Jesus?
Boom.
Well, you don't have to wonder, actually. So, Brother David, I'm very sorry to do this to you, but you're a little bit behind, because in the Discord, we have preliminary translations of the Saudi Arabian plates. Now, we can't get to these unless everybody likes the stream. So everybody's got to go hit the like button. But there's several different versions of it, because back then, Paleo-Hebrew didn't have any vowels. It's kind of hard to make it out on the plates. And so there's several different variations of the translations.
Is
And
this the
Carden, I don't know if you
University
can
of
find
Tel
those.
Aviv School of Hebrew Translation, Jonah?
Yeah, that's the first one. There's 5 of them. Start with that one, the University of Tel Aviv. So
okay, hit it.
The University of Tel Aviv has translated a couple lines of one of the plates, and they think it goes as follows: "Sons of Huraiza, some of the house of Oz, and then here the law of Elohim seems to appear in about the 5th or 6th line down."
Yeah.
However, there is a competing translation from the Calvary Chapel Seminary of Hebrew and Christian Studies. It's an evangelical translation. This one goes rather differently. It says something about Koraiza, and then it says, "Worship the Trinity, shut up all the women, stay away from Mormons, and we accept card and check." Weird that they are saying that. I don't know. Yeah, but it's a different translation, different opinions. There's also a translation from the University of Tortuga, which is the into pirate English. The University of Tortuga has translated "Sons of the Sea, keep to the code," and they think it says "pieces of 8" down there in that one.
Hey, that's David Butler's people. That's David Butler's peeps, dude.
That's
right there.
Yeah, I think he speaks
Correct.
pirate.
Yeah.
There's also translation from the University of Botswana. They've weighed in, and they think that they've translated the entire thing. This comes from Dr. Al-Khwarizmi, who's a translator there at their Department of Hebrew. And he says, and it's a very long translation, so I'm going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
"I am Prince Koraiza Botswana. You help would be very appreciated. I want to transfer all of my fortune outside of Botswana due to frozen account. If you could be so kind and transfer a small sum of 3,500 USD to my account, I would be able to unfreeze account and transfer money outside Botswana. To repay kindness, I will send $1 million to your account." That's what they think those plates say, which is a lot.
But it was a logographic language. It was a logographic language.
My favorite part of that is that Botswana didn't become a country till 1966. This scammer is just like, look, I have a plan.
That's funny, dude. That's
now there's one
hilarious.
more. There's one more translation, and David, I don't mean to try to steal your limelight or anything, but this is actually from the University of WardRadio, our own ancient languages department, and we've managed to create our own translation, and we think that we can make out pretty confidently that it says, "Do not forget to drink your Ovaltine."
very sage and ancient advice.
Yeah, very interesting. So we've managed. So those are a few variations of the translation that could be possible. We'll leave it to future scholars to really really narrow it down. But that's what we think they say.
Okay, so Brittany, that was hilarious, Jonah. Thank you. Can you keep us kept up on the chats?
Yes. Jonah, I forgot. You need to welcome one more person. Michael Roger St. Dennis.
Oh, Michael Roger St. Denis, we know him. Michael Roger, he's like a counselor in the Elders Quorum by now. All those who would like to welcome Brother Michael Roger St. Denis, please do so by putting a W in the chat. All those opposed to welcoming Michael St. Roger Denis, please go over and go watch Mormon Stories or something. We don't need you here.
Yeah. W for Roger. All right, excellent. Next one, Brittany, hit it.
Okay, Taylor Purser says, "Dave, love your books. My question is about the Tree of Life in our current endowment ritual and in our debir and San Antonio temples. There is a beautiful stained glass depicting the Tree of Life. Is this a coincidence?"
It is not a coincidence. You can tour a lot of that stuff online. It is not a coincidence. This is all right. Sorry, WardRadio guys. This is look, the temple order as Nephi and Matthew know it, and as Isaiah knows it, clearly envisions a Holy of Holies, a debir. You said it right very well, Brittany the Shadow. Good job.
Thank you.
That is a place of light and life. Okay, the straight and narrow gate leads to life, and the main hall was a place of dimness and darkness, the land of the shadow of death, through which you passed to enter into the presence of God. The reversal of that is the great apostasy of the 8th century BC. The fact that Mormon celestial rooms are places of arboreal life and light is one of the great unappreciated signs of the restoration.
Wow. Okay, rock on. By the way,
if you guys have not seen David Butler's interview with the Stick of Joseph guys, you need to go after this, go find on YouTube Stick of Joseph, David Butler interview. Some of the most insightful stuff. David Butler doesn't waste his time with fighting about metallurgy and beakers and laser spectrometry. He actually looks at the text. He actually, imagine that.
He does real HMD. Real HMD.
Like legit HMD. So go check that out when you're done with our stream.
Okay, you guys can see on the screen, there's a picture of him talking with Hayden Paul and the Stick of Joseph, our boys over there. So make sure you check out the video to reference what we are indeed talking about. Brittany, really fast, hammer out these last super chats. We got some really great super chats I saw.
John Pope, here's $5 to celebrate the soon-to-be 5th volume of our canon. Kidding, but kinda not.
All right, rock on.
William Woodall says, Dave Butler, are we finally getting a King Josiah expose? I have both of your books and lots of Margaret Barker.
All right.
Awesome.
Rock on. Hopefully that's coming. By the way, in regards to your comments about an arboreal tree of life, that's one of the interesting things that you pointed out. If this were not a forgery and were indeed real embossing of lead plates that had been covered in gold, it's very interesting that you have what indeed could be perceived as the tree of life, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm putting this up on the screen, as the centerpiece of these plates that were put on display. Am I correct?
Yeah. So look, this gets to sort of the criterion of embarrassment or like unexpected, accuracy, right? If kind of Joe Blow were to put together forged documents to try and sell them as, look, these are ancient Jewish documents, what would they look like? I mean, I think they might have references to like animal sacrifice or to the law of Moses or something. The fact that what these documents are full of is the temple ascent and the tree of life means that they match the Book of Mormon and arguably, right, or at least they match some reconstructions of what the temple was before the Deuteronomic reforms. This is a point that Luke made very ably in the opening. Now that doesn't mean that the documents are legitimate, right? Because what it could mean is that the forger was copying from legitimate documents. It could be that the forger was looking at existing artifacts and making his own 3D printed versions of the seals or whatever, and just lucked into sort of getting something that is clearly ideologically consistent across the small number of documents we saw. But we saw a number of images, right? And that is consistent with the Book of Mormon and also with Margaret's approach to what First Temple Judaism is like. So yeah, this is if the documents are historical, or even if they're forgeries based on real documents, then what we're talking about is priests who are not obsessed with blood sacrifice or keeping of the law or measuring mint and rue. They are obsessed with entering into the presence of the tree of life. They are obsessed with climbing Jacob's ladder into the presence of God. And that is awesome. And that is Nephite. And so, I hope it's true because I want to read those documents.
Okay, awesome. Brittany, catch us up on the super chats, and then we got to actually go back to Luke. We rounded out of Jonah. We were going into Luke, and he talked like for 2 sentences, and then we went down 17 different rabbit holes. So, Brittany, catch us up on the super chats, and we're going to go back to Luke.
Okay, Latter-day Chad just convinced a non-member Jesus was removed from the Old Testament by showing him Barker's work on the First Temple Judaism.
All right, rock on.
Nice.
Next
That's
one.
the NJ drug.
That's one of the coolest things to me. The way that it lines up with what Jacob says in the Book of Mormon. That's awesome.
Yeah. By the way, did one of you guys give the link out to somebody else on Zoom? There's somebody under a Brazilian name trying to get out, and I don't know if that's one of our buddies that was invited and hadn't showed up who has like a Brazilian
I think that's
name
Jackson
tag.
Paul.
Is that Jackson? Okay, I was thinking that might have been Jackson because the guys that come back from Brazil name everything in Portuguese, and it's just like they all think it's unique. You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, sorry to dog on you before you come into our chat, Jackson. You know we love you, and we're all just jealous of your smashing good looks and charm. But anyway, Brittany, catch us up on the super chats, and then I'll see if I can't get Jackson Paul in.
Kim Young says, any chance you guys will sit down with Morgan Philpott or Michael Rush? I would totally give you guys more Canadian funny money to see that.
Okay, cool. Well, we got to make sure that we get your money before your government confiscates it from anybody that might donate to those truckers. So, that was savage.
Rex Good says, don't forget that I have elevated Brittany to keeperess of the class. Oh, thank you, Rex.
Thank you, Rex.
Don't worry,
That's
Rex
true.
is still number one. Diamond Dave is just a close second.
Okay, she's keeping the roster deep.
Yes.
No.
Rock family, do any of you have an opinion on the recurring double star motifs found on all/most of the presented artifacts? Also, what is the significance of the number 24 in concentric circles on the seals?
That sounds like a David Butler or a Luke Hansen question.
I already offered a guess on the other chat. So Luke, what do you think?
As far as the double star, I'm not sure, but as far as the 24, the parallel to, and this is the other thing, like this little known fact about the Book of Mormon found in Don Bradley's book, the 116 pages, about the Book of Mormon having a seal that had something to do with the number 24, and then a similar, maybe not the same thing, but a similar parallelism, corroboration appearing on these plates is just like you've said, Dave, whether they're a forgery or whether they're real is a bizarrely accurate parallel to the Book of Mormon for it to be just a nothing burger either way this pans out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. All right. So I'll repeat what I said. There is a seal on the lead plate apparently, right? And most of the seals on the lead plate that are visible are basically a menorah. I think maybe 7 of them, and then there's a couple that have sort of branches of the tree of life. And there's one that has a circle, and it has sort of 7 dots inside it, and that's interesting because that sort of suggests maybe the menorah, and that suggests that it might be the sun, because the menorah tree of life we know from 1 Nephi 11 is the mother who is a virgin, and she's the lady clothed in the sun in the book of Revelation. So there's connection between her and the sun, right? So maybe that center circle with the 7 dots is the sun, and then there are 24 dots around the outside. It looks like a simplified of the same seal. It is Jackson. Bang.
Jackson,
dude, sorry,
mute
joined
yourself.
Not muted, dude. That was rude. You were saying something.
Yes. Keep going. Keep going, Dave.
Yes. So, by the way, this is a question I asked Hayden this morning. Is the way these guys characterize it. Now, by the way, I think the 2 Bible Lands tour guys are not necessarily the best advocates for their own position because they themselves are clearly unable to read the documents, right? So they're just like the tour operators who fell into this position. But they said, look, these are the seals of 12 different families. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? Because what does it say that there's like a seal on the Book of Mormon, and then what looks a lot like it might be the same seal, maybe in a smaller version, on this lead plate from Arabia, if they really are family seals?
Wow.
Now, we're like way out in crazy speculation land here, right? There's no reason to get excited about this, except wouldn't it be kind of awesome?
There's totally reasons to get excited if it were that awesome, and you're allowed to think and have fun thought experiments in WardRadio because we're not so desperate to get published in a fake crappy journal that carries no more weight because these idiots were willing to publish Jim Lindsay's book on like how dog parks are representative of college rape culture and how feminism is really just Mein Kampf. And like these are the same idiots that were like wearing masks and gloves while jogging on the beach at Huntington Beach and then would cross the street to lecture me.
I agree with every single word that Cardin said. No,
they would
not every.
Yeah, they would cross the streets to lecture me on why I'm not wearing a mask and a face mask and an N95 with a respirator plugged into a scuba tank on my back as I was like just trying to jog on my way to work to save some gas. You know, like these people are absolutely the most asinine, self-congratulatory doofuses. I'm sorry, doofi, because doofus is probably a Greek word. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only thing they do right is pride themselves on saying the data doesn't say instead of the data says, and now they think they're smart, all right? So I'm sorry.
I've been wondering what to do with our WardRadio website, and I think I figured it out. At the top, we're just going to have a banner that says, "The views expressed by Cardin Ellis do not necessarily represent the position of WardRadio."
Cardin's going to need his own disclaimer within.
That's going to be the heading. Just everybody who clicks on the site is going to see that first thing.
Why is it Why is it light outside where Jackson is? Jackson, talk. Why are you in sunlight?
Hawaii, man.
Dude, we're in Kyoto, Japan, bro.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But hey, let me say something to what you were saying. So we have since gotten, I wouldn't say a ton of backlash, but a few messages from people that are like, I brought this to this scholar, blah, blah, blah. They think it's an absolute fraud. We're like, okay, show us the proof that it's a fraud. And we actually got on a Zoom call with one that I respect a lot more than the others because he's a lot more honest than many that I've spoken to. And he kind of goes through his whole opinion of why he thinks that they're not authentic. But guess what he said at the end of the conversation? He says, but at the end of the day, these very well could be authentic and we just can't understand the writing. I'm like, oh, crazy, right? How do we discover anything new? Because we see it and we don't recognize what it is at first until we then understand. Like, if we're just going off of things that we've already discovered, like Paleo, Hebrew, other things like that, then we're going to be closed-minded to any new discoveries. And so that's what just bugs the crap out of me about the scholarly community, is that they speak so dogmatically and definitively as if they know 100% the truth or the not truth. And then at the end of the conversation, when you press them, they have to say, well, at the end of the day, it could be authentic, but this is why it's definitely not, because me and my buddy say no, and we're in the club.
Dude, now, speaking of that, actually, you bring up a great case, Jackson. The most recent thing in the Discord card, and I just put it in the Discord.
Okay.
The most recent thing in there is kind of a longer strip. This is actually a photograph of Dan McClellan here, saying, "Well, this expert says that the plates are fake." And I trust their judgment as academics.
For those
academics are not biased like us, but they're altruistic, and I'm more confident in my opinions when I side with experts. Great logic.
So for those that are listening on the radio or listening on Spotify, there's a new version of the clown mask meme floating around in which step one, the man's putting on the base layer of clown makeup and he says, this expert says the plates are fake. Step two, where he's putting on the lipstick and the eyeliner, says, I trust their judgment as academics. Step three, when he's putting on the wig, says academics are not biased like us, but altruistic. And then step four, when he has completed his full transition to full clown mode, says, I'm more confident in my opinions when I side with the experts, which is indeed representative of the, I don't want to use a vulgar term that starts with circle, but it is, it's the circular reasoning that you get.
Circular reason
of
it's
academia.
It's turtles all the way down. So what many academics will do is they'll say, well, this looks like a forgery because it looks like this other thing that we also said was a forgery, and that looks like this other thing that we also said was a forgery. And if you ever go back to that original thing and you say, wait, so why do you say this is a forgery? They say, well, there's some disagreement on it. The Jordanian codices, actually, there's a lot of difference of opinion on whether or not those are authentic or not. But Dan McClellan says, this looks like the Jordanian codices, and those are clearly a forgery. They pull the same logic with the Book of Mormon. They do the exact same thing with the Book of Mormon. So,
okay, Brad.
You're always better with the
Go, Brad. Go, Brad. Brad's been waiting patiently.
Is this kind of a situation where it's like, don't just label things fake when they're actually disputed, right? where, hey, if there's still disagreement about this, like, why are we just deciding to go with one group that says it's fake completely, right? I don't know. It's hard to say because I'm just a Canadian theater major. What do I know about ancient things, right? But when I look at this, I'm like, hey, the reasoning you gave for why this is fake seems kind of like shallow to me. I guess like you're saying that the writing doesn't match, but the claim is that the writing could maybe be slightly different than what you would expect it to be. So like, why don't you explore that route a little bit more, right? So I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing with forgeries, like if you're going to fraudulently make US currency, are you going to go ahead and make a $4 bill? No, you're going to try to emulate the authentic one as much as you can. And so whether they are what they claim to be or they're not, obviously in some sort of way, they are mimicking something that is authentic.
Yeah.
Well, and also, let's just face it. All of these academics, they're just less attractive than Jackson Paul. Definitely less attractive than Brad Whitbeck.
Everybody is.
Jonah, the only one that might be ugly enough to hang out in academic circles is David Butler, and that's only because he hasn't shaved yet. You know what I'm saying? And it's out of sheer jealousy that their girlfriends got stolen by everybody else that now they sit and they're like, oh, well, actually, anybody that starts a sentence with, well, actually, you can just immediately suppose they're just getting back at all the fun people that didn't invite him to the parties and all of the jocks in high school that stole their girlfriends, 20 years later, and they really just need Jesus and forgiveness, but they're rancorous and they're sitting there and this is their revenge, is disproving that these Saudi plates are real. You know what I'm saying? And they're just coping and seething. So anyway, I'm done.
We're totally putting that disclaimer in the bio.
Two things. One, the truth is nobody is unbiased, right? Academics have all kinds of biases.
Except for me.
Yeah. Well, so this is the thing. Anyone insisting that they are unbiased, it's just that they're selling you something. So like, that's nonsense. So that's cool. Let's test them. And like I said, as I explained, man, if the plates are a forgery, I still love that broadcast for what it says about Joseph Smith's story it tells about Lehi. So I retract nothing. If they're a forgery, I'm just as delighted as I was. So, but also too, I have a point of morphology, Carden. So if doofus is Greek, the plural is dophoi. Doophi would be Latin.
See, this is why I know you're not a scholar, because you didn't start out by saying, well, actually, you know what I'm saying? With that descending, I don't dare call it a glottal stop, because then one of the speech and language pathologists in the chat will say, no, actually it was a glottal fry, or whatever they want to say. So anyway, all right, let's keep going. So Luke, present us, please. And Jackson, I know you're walking around in Japan and you're doing crazy stuff. So if there's anything you got to say before you go, you're welcome to hang out if you want to. But Luke, why don't you tell us now, in all of your investigation, your investigative journalism, you know what I'm saying, what you've discovered, what are some of the arguments for and against this? Because we want to do our due diligence and present both sides of this argument. Luke Hansen, go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so something that was interesting was that it kind of flew under the radar during the presentation on the Shabbat Night Live, but this was actually something that they found over a year ago. So according to the Living Passages website, so that's the tour company that Dave was talking about, on the Living Passages website, it has Miles Jones, this is the doctor that is talking about discovering this. Under his name, he's one of the contributing scholars that takes people on these, what is it called? Quote, inspirational Christian travel. It's kind of the raison d'etre for this company. It says that he met with these people in March of 2003. So he's had this experience and he's looked at this for over a year, and they very briefly in the Shabbat Night Live thing mentioned giving this to other experts, or at least one other expert, and they used the plural at one point. So apparently other people have seen this, and this meeting that these two had with these Saudi locals was organized by somebody else from the Living Passages company. So we've got this big, fairly reputable company like Frank Turk is in it, and a couple of other kind of big name evangelicals is in this company. And one of the people from it was the one that connected these two parties together. So if this is a forgery, it really looks like it's coming from the Saudis and not from these evangelicals, because there's just too many people involved.
Yeah,
it's also they would never, if they were making a forgery, it would never be something that looks this much like the Book of Mormon. It just wouldn't.
No. Yeah, one of the people would know enough to say.
On that note, if these were a forgery, why are they sending these to evangelicals and not to the most liquid asset rich church that would really want to see something like this, right? Like
that just expended a large amount of money to get valuable.
We bought the Kirtland Temple for 192 million bones with the manuscript of the book, not even the golden plates. With the manuscript of the golden plates, we just dropped the GDP of a banana republic out there. If these people weren't so anti-Mormon, they would have straight up come knocking on the church office building's door.
So here's the thing. It looks like a hyper-targeted hoax to like the completely wrong audience, you know? Yeah.
Right.
Can I actually give a quote from David?
Yes.
I put this in the article. So I'm going to quote it. So this was David during the Stick of Joseph video. He says, I was watching this going like, man, if this is a prank, it's like the smartest prank ever. And it's like a prank designed to get specifically me. Like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't think it can be a prank. There's too much of this that is just exactly and weirdly right in the way that your average like Mormon baiting evangelical whatever is not going to understand.
All right, awesome. Before we go any farther,
and it sounds like you're sticking to those guns.
I stick to it. Look, they could be a forgery. I said that 2 days ago. As I said tonight, if they're not a forgery, that tells us something else that is awesome. Right, that Joseph Smith somehow came up with this story about Lehi that now that we know more about the time and place is like totally plausible despite everything everyone said about it. So it's still awesome. But yeah, my inclination is I think these are probably not forgeries. Now, I don't think this will be resolved for a long time because it takes decades, because in fact those disinterested academics are not. They are knife-wielding, pimp-rolling Mac daddies, and they're going to try to get these documents and get control over them and hide them.
They're not Mac daddies. They're weak sauce. The Mac daddies at least had the guts to go in with the rolling pin and to go in with the 9mm and to show up with the Thompson automatic. These dudes just sit around like a bunch of catty old ladies saying, oh, well, I wouldn't have said that in my deposition. You know, these people are literally...
Why you got to throw old ladies under the bus like that?
You know what? You're right. They're like a bunch of
rats. They're plague-bearing rats in a big swarm. No, but the point is, like, the turf wars and jealousy and private collectors will mean that we will have disagreement over the authenticity for a long time, unless there's some just gigantic, obvious bullseye, and probably some of them will disappear from view for years.
Okay, Brad.
And on that note, David, I have some friends who were invited to go take a look at some certain artifacts recently to help verify them for a possible buyer out here. And they were artifacts that have been around for a while, but they're trying to authenticate them and make sure that they're real before, like you're saying, a private buyer buys these. They may not end up in a place that academics get access to them. And so this is the kind of stuff that, may not be the kind of thing that we get academic eyes on. Like you're saying, we may never get this verification.
Because we don't want them ruined.
I don't know if you remember, but like the Dead Sea Scrolls was crazy. It was decades before stuff
crazy. Yep.
My favorite story, I'm going to get the details wrong. You can Wikipedia this, but like,
because they get the details right.
Well, but like this, they might get them. So the community rule, I think it was, where it wasn't published, but somebody had published a concordance. So you couldn't read the community rule, which is an important Dead Sea Scrolls text, but there was a publication that said, where on each line, on which lines every word appeared. So a guy, I think his name was Herschel Shanks, who was an editor of like Biblical Archaeology Review or something, took the concordance and reverse engineered it into the book. And that's how that thing got published, because the guys that hadn't wouldn't release it. Why? Because if they hold on to it, then their students can all get PhDs by doing a little one line at a time analysis of this book forever.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
man.
So fun fact. How long did it take for the Dead Sea Scrolls? You said if we found some kind of a bullseye, right?
Yeah.
Guys, in the history of archaeology, there has never been a bullseye like the Dead Sea Scrolls. That was an atomic bomb. That was the biggest discovery ever, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Everybody flocked to go read these things. And guess how long it took to trace? You had every scholar in the world energized, flying out there to try to look at these things.
And they're all pro-Mormon.
And translate them. And how long did it take to translate the Dead Sea Scrolls in English? To get the first translation into English? Any guesses?
I don't know about
year?
the first, but it's like from 1945 to the 80s, I think. It's like
1977 was the first. So they were discovered in 1946. If you remember Qumran, 1946.
Yep.
It took 30 years.
But that's the
to
first
get it published
book. That's
into
one
English.
book.
One.
I did not realize it took that long.
Yes,
Yeah.
the amount
oh
of
my gosh.
you could make 10 documentaries about the politicking, and then Jordan says, well, they were found in Jordan, and they say, well, it's in Hebrew, and it was a French guy who discovered this, and the translator, he's from Germany, and they're all fighting over this thing, and meanwhile the world is saying, hello, are you ever going to translate? Can we read these things? And they didn't want to let it out. The last thing they wanted was to let their work out, because it would fly away. It would cease to be their own.
Right. They
work.
have control over it. They can use it to generate work and prestige for themselves and their students. This is it. It's turf wars. This is going to happen. Expect it.
100%.
We will not know
100%.
the answer on these plates unless like some guy comes out and is like, yes, I am the forger and I did these to make fun of Mormons. Ha ha ha. Like, unless that happens, we're not going to know. Your grandkids are going to.
Which, to be fair, has been done before.
Sure, could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
All right, Brittany, you got to keep us up, catch us up on the super chats really fast, and then we're going to go back to Luke telling us more pros and cons about the Saudi gold plates. Brittany, go.
I mean, I will attempt to catch us up, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Just burn
But
through
here
them,
we
baby.
go.
Just burn through them.
Okay, well, I accidentally skipped Michael Roger St. Denis.
Okay.
But he says, your missions never ended. They've only grown in size. WardRadio is responsible for the conversion of many souls, now including mine. Alma 34, 32 through 38.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Does
That's
that get a
awesome.
W? Should we do a W for that one?
W
Heck yeah,
for
W in the chat.
This is Roger Saint Denis.
Correct.
Roger Saint Denis. He gets an extra W for the dunk. Actually, that's too irreverent. But W for the baptism. All right, boom shakalaka. That's a W in the chat from Ward Radio. Welcome, Roger St. Denis, to the real tribe behind the digital tribe of Ward Radio. So anyway, next super chat. Brittany, go.
Brad, for you. Diamond Dave says, money for Brad because babies are expensive.
Yeah.
Yes. Now we can afford diapers.
Nice.
True, they are.
And so are baby
day.
mamas. You know what I'm saying? So are baby mamas.
Okay.
Thank you, Diamond Dave.
Zach Thompson says, did you get the Supernatural University translation?
Oh, the Supernatural U is going to be translating these golden Saudi tablets.
Yeah, dude, it was a little weird. The thing that they said, the 24 dots around, it was a reference to Kobe Bryant.
Oh, a boom shot. Either that or else
Of course.
cryptids in the Pacific
course.
Northwest. I think it was Kane. It was Bigfoot. You know, Brittany, go hit it.
Jonah, can you welcome Brett Shearer to the Ward Radio Wigwam?
We recently have received the records for Brother Brett, and all those who would like to welcome Brother Shearer into the Ward Radio worship, please do so by the uplifted W.
All right. Next one, Brittany.
Jerry Grover says, kind of interesting that the Fayette Lapham account.
Fayette Lapham.
Yes.
Lapham, sorry.
Lapham account in the lost 116 pages. He indicated that along the Lehite tribe through Arabia, they detoured to get gold for the plates.
Oh, I forgot about
Really?
that. Yeah, and there's actually a region that I believe they were called like Solomon's Mines or something like that. That's a very interesting chapter in Don Bradley's book, The Lost 116 Pages, that you got to check out.
Jerry Grover, I think, brings up in a later super chat.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Next super chat. Brittany, hit it.
Ashton Jade Productions says, thanks, y'all.
All right. You're welcome, Ashton Jade.
And then there's a super chat in a different language.
I think that's Russian.
That one's for Jonah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you read that, Jonah? It says something like...
I posted it in the Zoom link chat.
Yes, you did. It says, Книга Мормона самая истинная книга в мире, согласно Jonah. Да, я согласен. That says, the Book of Mormon is the most true book in the world. Do you agree, Jonah? I absolutely agree. Да, точно, брат. Любовь тебе.
All right. Rock on. I hope you didn't just endorse the Wagner Group and war crimes in the Ukraine, but
I gave them our coordinates for airstrike.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I was not gonna say. Rock on. I gotta tell you, dude, Russian is cool. Like, there's some languages that no matter what you do, it comes out a certain way. Like Spanish is the language of romance. French is the language of diplomacy. German, it's the language of cursing your dog. And then there's, Russian, which is the awesome language of every bad guy for 60 years in American cinema. And then there's Englishmen who are always the good guys. And there's never a bad Englishman unless the good guy is the star of the show who's chasing him. So, this is what Hollywood has done to all of our languages. And Russian people, they just completely have learned to run with this. Have you seen the stand-up comedian that says he was a Russian guy living in the black neighborhood in New York? And like when people said like, oh, is it rough here? And he's like, oh, whenever somebody would approach me, I would just say like, do you think it's rough here? You know what I'm saying? And then I'll be like, oh, geez, back off, So I don't know who I stole that joke from, but it's a really funny joke. So
anyway. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was going to say we've received the records. So Brother Darren Brower is doing his work as a ward missionary. Thank you, Brother Brower. And we have received the records for Fidget the Crazy. I think Fidget the Crazy is literally the young women's president in the ward. Crypto Surfer, Diamond Dave, Hit Points Lovecraft, and Jason Gast, all those who would like to welcome Sister Fidget, Crypto Surfer, Brother Diamond Dave, Hit Points Lovecraft, and Brother Jason Gast. Please do so by putting a W in the chat.
All right, thank you. Now catch up on these last super chats, Brittany. Just burn through them really fast.
This one, I don't know what it means, but Dave, maybe you do. Brian Bacon says, Dave, what's your scheduled at firm, just at panel?
Oh, are you speaking of the Firm Foundation?
Firm Foundation.
Yeah, my schedule is I'm speaking, I'm going to go present. I'm going to throw the mic so hard at the floor that it goes through into the basement.
Oh, shoot.
And the rest of the 3 days, I'm going to be hanging out with the Paul brothers selling books because we ought to have advanced copies of In the Language of Adam.
All right. Rock on. Let us know about your book, bro. We'll push it over here. That's good to know. Next one, Brittany, go.
Okay, Jerry Grover says, archaeologists determined that Maya Grolier Codex, written almost 900 years ago, was genuine after decades of believing it was fake.
Same with the Mulek seal. Same with so
many things. The Testament of Naphtali. There's so many things.
Wait,
they're all forgeries until they're not.
Are you telling me that scientific consensus isn't always completely accurate?
It's not scientific. They're tribalistic woke scolds. Atheism 2.0 is nothing but Karenism. It's liberal Karenism. That's all it is. They're a bunch of dogmatic, worse than the Catholic priests that performed the Inquisition. The most closed-minded and pathetic individuals in our society are our scholars. All right.
Have you been smoking weed with Graham Hancock? What happened to make you this jaded?
He never changed, Brad.
Yeah.
He never changed, Brad.
Okay. Brittany, finish up on the super chats, and then Luke's going to come back to the pros and cons of these plates.
I am happy to report that we are all caught up.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a first for us. Okay. So, Luke Hansen, tell us, we've only got 10 minutes left here. Okay, we got 10 minutes left here, unfortunately. In these last 10 minutes, what are some of these pros and cons of the plates? Also, for everybody that is participating with us, please make sure that you smash that like button and also share this with your friends. We only got 10 minutes left of this live stream. And if anybody wants to opine, make sure they hit us up with a super chat. We do our best to read all of them. You can ask questions of Brad Whitbeck, the diplomat, Luke Hansen, the journalist, David Butler, the bon vivant, and just smart guy in the room, as well as the inspiration for the old Bud Light commercial, Handlebar Mustache Man, true American hero, and Jonah Barnes, the associate professor of all things apocryphal, as well as me or Brittany the Shadow. You can ask us in a super chat. We'll do our best to read it online. Luke, tell us, what are all of the pros and the cons for and against these plates that you've come up with, my man?
All right, so we've gone through a laundry list of pros, and now I do have a con that I found, and this is something that people bring up with Joseph Smith of, can we see some sort of a pattern happening with these people? And there's a couple of people who have pointed to a possible pattern with Dr. Miles Jones, the person who came out with this, that back in 2007, he was backing up another guy who had claimed in like a conference that there was this stone dating from the time and place of Moses that had YHWH on it, which is Yahweh, aka God. And a couple of people wrote and spoke and were quoted by a biblical scholar named Gordon Franz back in 2012. And Franz pointed out that Dr. Jones was probably incorrect in his translation of the inscription that he said was the Yad He Vov He YHWH God. He said the way that they were, the dot that was there changes what the letter is, and so he was just a little too overeager to see Yahweh in an archaeological find back to the time of Moses, and he didn't do his due diligence on it. They didn't present it to other scholars before just claiming it was true, before checking it with anybody. So that was a criticism. He also criticized his claim of saying it's obviously ancient, because he said you can get that wearing on the stone that he said was the smoking gun, that it was ancient, just by burying it underground for a year or two, and the sand kind of creates that worn aspect inside of the etchings. And he had another expert. We've already expressed our opinion on the experts weighing in, but he also quoted another expert saying the Moses stone is almost certainly fake. And despite promising to check it with scholarships and publish in peer-reviewed journals on it, years after the fact, when he wrote this in 2012, 5 years later, Dr. Jones still has, and as far as I can tell, to this day, has not actually published peer-reviewed research on the claims he was making on the stone in the past. So we do have the possibility that he has a history of getting overexcited and not doing his work, checking his work on finds that he either finds himself or finds out about, but that doesn't automatically rule it out as being a fake.
Okay, if you want to say that, hey, I got questions with the chain of custody, I will say this. The scientific method as a way in which humans can communicate naturalistic truths to each other is one of the greatest advancements of human history, and it ought be respected. The only problem is that if you want to make the argument that, oh, hey, the scientific method hasn't been followed here, oh, hey, the chain of custody of this artifacts has been broken in a way that maybe I don't think it could be accepted as evidence in court, just like the chain of custody of evidence cannot be corrupted if you're going to use fingerprints or you're going to use shoe plaster molds. You want to make sure the cops aren't destroying all the evidence and so on and so forth. So if you want to make a chain of custody argument, I'm willing to listen. The only problem is that the people that are in charge and the grand stewards of our scientific method have proven to be just as corrupt as the Sanhedrin was during Christ's time, just as foolish, as tribalistic, as unworthy of the greatness that was the law of Moses back then, you know what I'm saying, having been corrupted by the Sanhedrin. The scientific method has been corrupted by the scholars, so much so that anybody quoting it is probably just using it as a bludgeon against somebody for some unscientific reason, and cannot be trusted.
Not necessarily, though. I think that there are people who do that, but that doesn't mean any use of the scientific method.
When I am dictator, the first ones we round up are. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
peer review is a good system because it means my work was checked and verified by somebody that's not going to get anything out of it.
Oh, not going to get anything out of it, except for the $10,000 grant from the government when you tell them what they want to hear. Oh, except for the $50,000 grant from the corporation when you tell them what they want to hear. Oh, except for the $100,000 woke scold charitable donation.
Doing the research gets that. Now you can have a convalescence of interests where a lot of scientists kind of all get on board for the same thing and are all getting funding and checking each other's work. But in kind of a cutthroat, trying to get ahead of each other type of environment, in science, the peer review is like, I got published, so I get all the glory. But in order to get that glory, somebody else who's not a part of it and not getting the grant money has to okay it first.
I'm going to send you a COVID mask.
I don't know about that.
I'm going to send Luke and Brad.
Hold on. I'll do the Ronald Reagan quote. I'll do the Ronald Reagan quote on capitalism. He said, capitalism is a horrible system. The only thing worse than it is every other economic system we have. So the peer review system is absolutely awful. It's totally corrupt, and it's a completely unworkable scientific system, except for every other system we could.
You know what? I'm going to give you a COVID
just
mask.
Because it has flaws doesn't mean that we shouldn't trust it at all.
Then I'm going to give Brad a COVID mask too that just says "I love scholars" on it. So when they force you to mask up next time you go to church, you can be like, "No, but I have my face yarmulke. I am worthy. I can come to the weeping wall of scholarship. I am worthy."
I
know what I'm
saying? Brad got this, and I just dodge it.
Luke dodged.
I was the one who cut him off earlier. Okay, I do want to ask a question though, in relation to this. What do you guys say to people who are saying, hey, these are obvious forgeries, right? What's the response to that?
Who are you to tell any of this crap? You've never been cool enough to be invited to the Middle East to actually see these things firsthand. You're not evangelical enough. You're not scientific. Who are you, bro? What experience do you have other than the freaking circular reasoning of all of your buddies and the absolute desire to be the first one that rains on everybody else's parade? Like, the first 2 days when some of these things come out, it's just a Rorschach test. That's all it is just a Rorschach test.
Remember, the Testament of Naphtali was a forgery for 400 years. 400 years. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. Oops.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what would be obvious about it being a forgery. It may be a forgery.
Yeah.
I don't know why it would be obvious forgery.
And that's
because
the thing
it verifies the Book of Mormon. That's what makes it obviously a forgery.
That is what makes it obvious, is because that means that maybe there was Moroni, and that's the real problem.
And I think there are people who are overly worried that if we accept it as evidence, we're just doing what our detractors would do, right? But I think we're in the wrong if we just automatically, like if we were out here saying, these are clearly authentic. Yeah, build your testimony on this. Clearly dumb. But I think we just as much should not be saying these are obvious forgeries because there's this other thing that this looks similar to that was also a forgery. Like these could be authentic. We've got to put them through the tests. We got to take some time.
And two comments about what I said yesterday. One, at no point did I say these are obviously true or these are true, right?
Yeah.
I said these might be forgeries. I'm inclined to think they are true. But also, too, I love the way that Luke quoted me before earlier, and he was so scrupulous to quote me exactly right that I sounded like an idiot.
Yeah.
I think that, no way, but then...
like,
I actually cleaned it up a bit.
Was I cussing or something? I don't remember.
No. I just took a few likes out.
Okay.
And he put sick in parentheses for all your
mispronunciations. Yeah, every single time.
Yeah, mispronunciations. All right, so
and
Luke,
I have.
Oh, sorry.
I have just. I know we got to wrap up here soon, but it bears reminding. It bears reminding a few things.
The clips
that, regardless of whether or not these plates are authentic, the fact that we're talking about plates, to David's point, is a great point. The fact that we're even talking about this and that this is plausible. Remember, Reverend M.T. Lamb, who wrote The Golden Bible, one of the OG anti-Mormon books, quoted as saying, "No such records were ever engraved upon golden plates or any other plates in the early ages." That, quote, did not age well. And Dr. Hugh Nibley once said, "It will not be long before men forget that in Joseph Smith's day, the prophet was mocked and derided for his description of the plates more than anything else. They laughed us to scorn for, over almost 200 years until we started discovering this stuff." What's the most important thing to remember, like the dude in the video said, we can test the product of Joseph Smith's plates. My faith, the way that I know the Book of Mormon is true is not because I've touched any plates or ever will. I never need to. I don't even want to. The thing that gives me testimony of the truthfulness of the gospel is because of a personal experience I had with God and the Spirit reading the content of the book. If you want to know if the Book of Mormon is true, don't base it on some plates or whatever. Read the content of the book. That's what it says in the book itself. It says, who cares where it came from or how it came? Read the book and you can tell for yourself. You can get a witness for yourself that it is absolutely authentic. It is a historical book. It actually happened. It's very true. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is true. So this is all cool and fun. And we are certainly going to, who's the guy who said pump the brakes? Do you even know WardRadio? No, we're going to explore this because it's super cool, but it's always good to remember that in the end, our testimonies are based off of our personal witness that the Book of Mormon is absolutely true.
And, you bring up a really good point. This will be the last thing I say, but thanks, babe, for your vote of confidence. I would say that even if this was a 100% forgery, it will have done nothing more than prove the first 200 years of anti-Mormonism wrong. And,
yes.
Is even if it's a 100% forgery, it puts to bed how many thousands of families, and positive relationships were turned negative and human relationships ruined because anti-Mormons mocked members of the church for having faith in golden plates, golden leaves or whatever. And if this does nothing more, it shows that in 1830, they mocked Joseph Smith for talking about a golden Bible. And now they're making forgeries of golden Bibles if they want to be able to pull off the sale of an ancient record. If this does nothing, if this gets proven to be an absolute Jordanian fraud made in, I wouldn't say a basement, because I don't know if basements are really a big thing over there, as you suggested, Dave Butler, but maybe in like a small room of Petra. You know what I'm saying? If this was done with a CNC machine in a small room of Petra, it still puts to bed the idea of golden plates in a way that is beyond what Joseph Smith could have ever anticipated. Anybody else got any final thoughts before we go? I'm not going to go over the 90-minute limit that I promised you guys.
Let me just answer one question that was in the chat. I actually put an answer in the chat, but I'll Brad's sharing it here.
Where's your loyalty, bro? I thought you were talking, and here you are chatting it up with these people. Like,
I can't serve two masters. Audience. I'm trying to.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, bro.
So someone asked, "Hey, what's your comment on Jeremiah 8:8, which says, how can you say we are wise, for we have the law of the Lord, when actually the lying pen of the scribes has handled it falsely?" And I think I'm paraphrasing myself because I'm not seeing my own answer. But look, 2 Nephi 9, Jacob talks about people who falsely claim to be wise. Wisdom is a temple title. Wisdom is a title you earn by entering into the Holy of Holies. And in 2 Nephi 9, there are people who claim it falsely. And here in Jeremiah, there are people who not only claim it falsely, but are also altering the scripture. That is what Jeremiah is talking about.
Wow, rock on. Dude, you're a cool guy. We got to hang out sometime, bro. Like, this is
Dude,
deep,
I'm coming down to California, like 2 weeks, 15 days from today. No, less than that, like 10 days. I'm going to come down there. I'm cooler in person. I'm going to bring a guitar, and I'm taller than you.
Oh, well, shut up, really?
You're taller than Carter?
Yeah, dude.
I'm 6'7".
He is so tall.
You're 6'7"?
I'm going to walk in, and you're going to be like, who let the half ogre out of the zoo?
All right.
Who are all you freaks that are so tall?
We're the Nephilim, dude. We're left over from the
Nephilim,
flood.
dude.
Yeah, dude, for real. Like, we know the Old Testament wasn't making it up because we got Dave Butler and Cardin Ellis. So there's 4 more super chats really fast. Burn through them, Brittany, before we go.
Actually, 3, because Dave took one of them. Okay.
Like a ball.
Poly Nikes, just...
If you got to skip it, sometimes Paulie Nikes takes some hot sauce and he puts it on it.
Carden, just let me answer it instead of you and we'll be fine.
Okay, fine.
Okay. All right. Brad's got this one.
Okay, so he says, Carden, I loved your first rant. Can you explain who might comprise the handbook worshipping Sadducees and their possible value to America?
Brad?
I haven't made about it, Ed. It was the boomers. And that's all I got to say.
Oh, that's funny. All right, keep going, Brittany.
Okay, Agate Island says, I believe our new apostle who will be sustained on Saturday spent a good amount of time living in Saudi Arabia. Coincidence?
Maybe he's the forger.
Oh.
And this is a big plot. We're going reverse, Mark Hoffman, and we're straight up selling our own forgeries, and we're going to take over the world with the archaeological evidence that we get out of this. It's going to be freaking awesome. And Dave Butler.
4D chess.
Yeah, Dave Butler's going to be in charge of that secret stash that's right next to that First Vision account that we hid from the world because we were afraid it would take down the church. You know what I'm saying? And he'll be the one signing the checks to us that are secretly coming through backdoor channels. So anyway, next super chat, babe.
Okay, Jerry Grover says, Jones in the video indicated that he was working through the Saudi government and archaeologists. So maybe they will be subject to a lot of review.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. And I'll also add that he was saying he wanted to get a metallurgical study, but they were working on that too. So he has committed to further research and hoping that pans out sooner rather than later.
All right, awesome. Next one, Brittany.
Nope, that's it.
Oh, we're all caught up. What do you know? What do you know?
One more just barely came in.
Hit it.
Rex Good says, visit Boomer Basement in WardRadio Discord.
Oh, shut up. Is there a boomer? Is there a boomer basement in the WardRadio Discord?
Dude, there's everything in the WardRadio Discord, man. Okay. It's massive.
Okay, this will be our outro because we do have to give a big shout out right now to all of the moderators of the WardRadio Discord. I'm going to pull this up on our screen so that everybody can see it, okay? But the WardRadio Community Discord is a robust and super fun Discord. Look at this. They've got suggested show topics. They've got Boomer Basement, Zoomers Landlords, Parenting, a book club, Quaker's Corner, Self-Reliance, Relief Society, Friends of the Channel, original artwork by members, a prayer roll, testimony meetings, so on and so forth. The Discord is a ton of fun. And to get there, ladies and gentlemen, the only thing you got to do is make sure that you check out the WardRadio website. As you can see on your screens right now, you just got to go to WardRadio, and in the very top corner, there is a social media bar that you guys can see right there. And the little paddle looking icon is actually the Discord server link. It's a super fun social media app that's everything about Facebook and Reddit mixed together. That's cool. Traditionally meant for gamers, but everybody can use it. And true or not true, Jonah, Luke, and Brad, it's a ton of fun.
Oh, it's a blast.
Yeah,
it's a lot of cool stuff going on in there.
Yeah, a lot.
Very cool people.
And just a real place that you can like talk about all of these interesting things that we're learning about with other people who are genuinely interested in them. It's awesome. It's super cool. You get a community of like nerd scripture freaks like us who want to go through and understand all this stuff, you know. It's awesome.
Yeah. So any last words really fast? Dave, you're the invited guest to the channel today. Where can people find you? What's some stuff you want to pub before we get out of here? Give us the whole 9 yards.
So I'm on Twitter, David John Butler. Look, I write science fiction and fantasy. You come find me on Twitter, you're gonna be like, why is this guy talking about nerd books? Because like that's the other thing I do. But like, you know,
which is awesome.
Stuff comes up. Yeah, it is awesome. Like in a weird, very nerdy way. I'm also spending a fair amount of time with Hayden and Jackson Paul because they are becoming publishers, and so they are the ones publishing my third Book of Mormon book, which is called In the Language of Adam. So that's what I will pimp. In the Language of Adam comes out May 1st. Currently recording the audiobook. It is, you can start there. If anything I've said tonight sounds not crazy to you, that's a place where you can start. But if you've read the first 2 books, you're not going to be disappointed. There's lots of new stuff.
Jonah, can I talk about our thing for 30 seconds, Jonah?
Oh, no, man. I don't know. I'm nervous, man.
Kids, okay, just for 2 seconds, we're doing the publishing thing too. All right? First book that's coming out is totally wild, but it's basically going to be called, actually, I won't say what it's going to be called, but the log line is, actually, no, here's the book. The book is simple. It's Lehi's Apocryphal Genesis. And we've gone through all the Dead Sea Scrolls and all of the apocryphal works, and it becomes plainly obvious, according to a lot of this research done by Jonah Barnes, he gets all the credit. He has basically, similar to how Don Bradley was able to put back together a lot of aspects of the lost 116 pages by exploring all the evidence of everybody that saw them and talked about them and interviewed about them and so on and so forth. He believes that the most important book of our religion is a book that nobody has read, and it's probably an apocryphal Genesis account that was used amongst Lehi's tribe, that was more messianic and contained all of the good stuff, that was taken out by the revisionists of the Old Testament and that 8th century apostasy that you talk about, but whose stories have been preserved in the apocryphal works that nobody pays attention to and are still getting found. And we're compiling it and recreating Lehi's Apocryphal Genesis. The most important book of our religion is a book that nobody has read, and it's going to be totally epic, and it's coming soon. So we're doing the same thing, Dave. We're happy to have you in the club of Mormon Graham Hancocks that love scholars and wear
Nice.
COVID masks.
How are you guys publishing? Was WardRadio a publishing company too?
That we're starting that aspect of it, just like we're getting into news and we're branching out, bro. The author,
but careful, if my publisher watches this stream, they're going to be like, "Hey, what
are you doing?"
So
you know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute, you're writing another book without it?
Yeah, well, it's not genealogical, bro. So anyway, Brad, Luke, tell us about yourselves, where you're going, and what you're doing, and then we'll get out of here.
Oh, well, it looks like Jonah is pubbing my book, since I guess we're all authors here.
Tell you what,
right there.
I was just reading this excellent fantasy book. You might like this, Dave. It's called Dragon Thief.
I'm very excited to read that. Oh, yeah.
It's an excellent book, yeah.
It has a sequel.
It does, which is doing quite well. I hear there's more coming out, so.
Very excited.
So Dragon Thief. My wife and I, we co-authored this book. It's been a blast. It's been so much fun just getting this out to people. We wrote basically a dragon fantasy story that we would have loved to read as teenagers. Tons of people have gotten back to us about how much fun they've had with it, because I think fantasy should be fun. So anyone who wants to, check out skystonechronicles.com. There's some really fun stuff. Basically, if you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Brandon Sanderson style stuff, you'll enjoy this book.
It's got hot chicks and explosions and drug dealing, freaking dragons. It's like totally
drug dealing
epic.
Dragons.
Yeah,
dragons. Yeah.
You said it's urban fantasy, right, bro?
Draco.
No,
his name's Draco.
Say,
yeah.
The words urban fantasy never left my mouth.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I guess I screwed that one up. And Luke, tell us where you're at, what you're doing, how people can find you if they want to complain about your tainted yellow journalism.
Yeah. So I'm joining WardRadio Journalism. That was announced today. Finishing up an article on everything we talked about here. I'm at Luke F. Han on X, I guess now, not Twitter. And I'm just celebrating Come Thou Fount is going to be in the new hymn book. That's what I'm doing these days.
Yeah. We got.
I wish they hadn't published that on April Fool's Day. I was like,
I know.
Wait, is it real? Please tell me this is real.
Dude, yeah, next they're going to say Amazing Grace is also going to be in it, and they're going to publish it on April Fool's next year, because we know it's going to take them a year before they get the next announce the next 8 songs that are going to be in it, because the 3-year turnover they promised 12 years ago, you know what I'm saying, didn't exactly show up on time. So anyway, Birdie, hit us.
There's a super chat that snuck right in.
Okay, last super chat and then we go.
Okay, Professor Chimp says, you guys should reach out to Kyle Orthodox. Great channel, but he uploaded a debunking of Mormonism even after I emailed him resources to get his facts straight instead of recycled tropes.
The recycled tropes,
yeah.
man. The recycled tropes. I got to tell you, it's anti-Mormon rule number 3, I believe it is they never say anything new. They only recycle old lies. So yeah, I got to tell you, woke scolds and liberals love recycling, even though it's been proven not to work except for in aluminum and glass. But old lies. You got to reduce, reuse, recycle. And they're really good at that with old stereotypes as well. So anyway, awesome. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. Thank you, Brittany, for being keepress of the chats, keeping it classy. Thank you to everybody who was able to share their super chat with us. If you are watching this live stream after it was live, please make sure that you drop a like. Or if you would like to contribute to the program and you're watching afterwards and couldn't give us a super chat, please make sure that you check us out on Venmo or on the Cash App. We're available on both platforms and you can contribute there. Also, guys, shirts are coming, as well as articles and books and so on and so forth. We're finally launching, and we're getting some of these other aspects. Some other heads from the Hydra are launching, and the shirts will be here real soon. We're excited to have those. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, or die. And as always, for this and more, please make sure that you check us out at WardRadio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing. You're gonna feel my sonic boom. I'm flying higher and I'm never coming down. Look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me. We brought the funk into this function. We show up dressing to the nines. Okay.